I'm Tim Herrera with the Sacramento County Office of Education, and thank you for watching this video. We're talking about schooling your children at home because a lot of people are doing that right now, and we are fortunate to have in our studio Alicia Carter. She is an Academy Coordinator with the Thomas Charter School, PACT Academy. Thank you for joining us in this segment to talk about a really important topic that's really on a lot of minds for a lot of parents right now.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So what we're talking about is what first-time homeschool teachers should know. So I guess the first thing we should talk about is they shouldn't consider themselves homeschool teachers.
Correct. Right. So homeschooling is a situation where parents have chosen to bring their kids home for education. And most of us in this situation right now haven't chosen that. It's definitely what we're referring to as crisis schooling or schooling from home. And it is different because we're doing this in isolation and without training. And it's okay to give yourself permission to not be great at this, just from the get-go, that this is a very different situation than anybody is used to doing.
And so the first point that we want to make in this conversation is you are not creating school at home, correct?
Correct, right.
What are you doing?
So school at home, when I talk with new homeschooling families, we talk a lot about the perception that you need to create a schoolroom in your own home where the kids are sitting and working on things at a table and then doing a project and coming back to the table, and that it replicates the schedule of a school day. And really, that's not a realistic situation in most homes. Many of us working from home right now, sharing devices, sharing space. We have kids of multiple ages with different needs going on. So really the idea would be to create a learning space in your home more than a school. Just space and time and the tools that students need to interact with learning and to do learning activities that are meaningful for them.
And so in order to do that, one thing you need to do is build a routine that fits your life, because you're not doing the 8 to 4 school thing. You're doing something completely different and condensed.
Yes, exactly. So learning in a classroom happens for groups of children, and learning in your home is a much smaller group of children. So sometimes they don't need as much time to accomplish a task as it would take in a classroom. Sometimes they need more time to explore something in a little bit more depth. And sometimes you're going to be working with one kid or another kid while the other children are doing other things, or the kids need to be working on their own and independently. And so it's setting up something that works for you. And that's the key really in this whole thing, is to do what works for you. So one of the things that I talk with families about a lot is the difference between routine and schedule. So a schedule is when you set specific times to do specific things, like at 8:15, we're going to do this, and at 9:30, we're going to switch to this. That can be really rough in a home environment, just because things are changing so quickly, and flexibility is key. So what we recommend is to develop more of a routine. And a routine, the difference between a schedule and a routine is really as a routine sets kind of an order of things and a list of things, but not necessarily a set time or amount of time. And so one of the really great routines I've seen out there is what is called the 3-hour homeschool. And so what that would be is where you focus for an hour or so of your day in the academic pursuits, core academic pursuits, math, language arts, and then another hour where you're interacting with really good stories. Reading is really, really important for any kid's education. So listening to audiobooks, doing read alouds, having children read at their own level and their own interest, those kinds of things. And then the third hour of your day being digital pursuits. So educational websites, games, podcasts, webcasts, all of those things. We watch a lot of documentaries at our house, whatever happens to be fun, the virtual field trips. And then you can set that up in your day however it works. In my house, I have 3 children, and one of my children gets up early and starts her schoolwork and finishes by lunch. One of my other children sleeps late and starts a little later and spreads out her time throughout the day. And then my third one just does whatever works for her on that day. So it's very flexible, but they know that within the day that routine is going to happen.
So it's flexibility is the key there.
Flexibility, yep.
Okay. So you're talking about a routine and not a schedule. So let's talk about the next tip, where you say create a comfortable framework without creating stress.
Right.
So a lot of people are stressing.
A lot of people are stressed right now. And one of the things that any family who finds themselves educating from home in any situation finds that they get a good routine going, and then one day it breaks. And that's okay. It's okay not to have the same routine every day. It's okay for things to go a little haywire. It's okay to purposefully derail. There are days where we wake up and it's beautiful outside and the kids want to go out and make mud pies and make chemistry experiments from the plants in the backyard. And it's okay to give yourself permission to do that, to deviate from the routine and be flexible and to go where the kids want to go. It's also okay to do that for you. This is a stressful time, and there are some days where it's just harder to get things to click. Give yourself permission to say, this isn't working right now. We're going to take a break. It's going to be board game time or movie time or go outside time. We can pick this up at another time or on another day, and to build in those breaks. Again, it's that flexibility and permission to bend. So when I started in homeschooling, somebody told me it's really important to be the reed that can bend in the wind instead of the staff that will snap. And so I always keep that in the back of my mind, that flexibility piece. It's better to let go today and come back to it than to hold tight and break.
Because maybe a lot of parents were looking at the situation traditionally as to when they were in school, where it was, reading at 8 o'clock and math at 9. And I mean, you have to kind of get that out of your mind when you're creating your plan.
Exactly. Yeah. The structure of school is helpful because it's a structure, it's a building and a place, and we all have to do that together. But when you're working in your home, it has to fit in what's going on in the home in order to be successful.
And also, in order to be successful, one of the tips you give is do something that gives you joy.
Yes.
Explain what that means.
Yes. And that's the adults and the kids. So for sure, everybody needs something that feeds their soul. And so for some kids, that could be art or music. It can be exercise. It could be building things. And so we try to build time in for our kids to really interact with something that gives them peace and joy. And when my kids are doing that, I try to interact with them so that I'm participating in the joy and not just their struggles, but also to make room for my kids to see me making time and space for things that give me joy. So I try to sit down and play the piano a little bit every day. I color with the kids. We play games together. I go for a walk. And that's really, really important, just to remember that these are the valuable things in life, and that making space for the things that give us joy is going to put us in the right frame of mind to do the hard work of life too, which is also so valuable.
So that's actually shared joy. It's not just for you, it's for the kids too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. One other tip you talk about is using board games as learning tools. Give some examples.
Yes. So I'm a little bit of what the online homeschooling community calls a game schooler. And that's where we create learning opportunities through games. And so when I started out, we just kind of looked for what was already in our cabinet. There are a lot of games that incorporate really, really great math, reading, strategy, logic components. So things like card games, dominoes, Yahtzee are things that a lot of families have in their cabinets. Chess and checkers can be great. And then a lot of families have things like headbands or apples to apples, which are pretty common family games. And that's just a great opportunity to talk about language. And then there are actually many, many games out there that you can hunt down and find and kind of interact with to fit your family's needs. So we look for things where kids are asked to tell stories, where they're asked to solve a puzzle, to do something logical. And it's just really great for the brain and a great way for families to engage together. My little one likes to play Uno. We play a lot of things where counting and ordering is important. I'm trying to think of any
Scrabble
offhand. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yep. Scrabble. Yeah. Scrabble's not popular in my house. I'm not a good sport about Scrabble. So we don't. But some of you will love that.
No flexibility on words you're allowing on the table?
Yeah, no, I'm all about the big words. So
one other point that you make is find learning in everyday situations.
Right. So
explain how that's important and give some examples.
Yeah, learning is everywhere. And we notice this in our small children before they head off to school. We capitalize on how they learn colors and numbers and about their food. And we talk to them a lot when they're very small. And when you start to look for those opportunities in your daily life, you'll see them more and more. It's one of those things that comes to the forefront once you start looking for it. So I have a 6-year-old and just this week she was talking about all of the things in the past kind of don't have any delineation. And so everything is yesterday. And so we were talking about, oh, well, how many days ago, and looking at calendaring and those kinds of things. So there are those great opportunities in everyday conversations, but also just in everything you're doing in your day. Right now, we're grocery shopping online and picking things up. So the kids are helping to plan ahead, do some meal planning, think about cost, where they're helping me fill up the grocery cart online. And when things come in, we see what didn't come in, and then we unpack it, and we talk about cleaning and germs and talk about science and why we clean things the way they clean. So there are many, many opportunities for those kinds of conversations. We go into the backyard and we find that interesting bug that made some sort of interesting thing. The different birds, the reason that the clouds move the way they do. All of these are things that are really actually pretty advanced science concepts that you can talk about with your kids. We do a lot of math when we cook.
Well, there's also current events, there's budgeting, there's all these everyday things.
All those things, everything that I'm doing, there's some sort of component that my kids can learn from. And right now they're getting to see me work in a way that they don't normally get to see. So they have a lot of questions about how does that work and what happens there. We've taken apart some appliances and electronics in our house to see how they work.
Did you put them back together?
Well, mostly. Okay. My husband's good at that. So, it's a great opportunity for them to explore their world in just kind of a little microcosm and see how the things that they use every day work. How does the water get to the pipes, and why does it run out of hot water when my sister stays in the shower so long? So lots of really good learning opportunities just in your everyday activity.
One other tip you give is find something your child loves and capitalize on that. Why is that important?
Well, if nothing else, kids are motivated to do what they love. So if you have a kid who's interested in, oh goodness, I have a friend whose kid is really interested in World War II, kind of an obsession. And so that child is spending a lot of time reading books about World War II and watching a bunch of documentaries and digging deep, playing an online game that has to do with battles and doing some writing related to that. So instead of maybe working from just a place of, well, we need to write about something and picking a random topic, they're using that interest to hook the child. And that's one of those little homeschool educational things. It's the hook. So I have a child who's really, really interested in sewing. She struggles more in math. So for us, it's really good to have her lay things out, measure and cut, because we're sneaking that learning into something that's interesting that she wants to spend time on. If your child is interested in cooking or in outer space or in dinosaurs or in coding or in woodworking, this is a great opportunity to dive deep into a hobby or a topic. And there's a popular homeschool author, Julie Bogart, writes a book called Brave Learning, and she talks about continents of learning, where you can actually think about your child's interest and then think about all the things that relate to that. So she gives the example, if your child likes to play piano, can you learn about the history of composers? Can you learn about the theory of music and the math related to that? What about the contributions of people to culture? How about how the piano is put together and built? What about the physics of sound? And what are all the things you can think of related to that child's passion? And how can you use that as a springboard for keeping kids interested and engaged?
And for the parents, another tip you give is that it's important to connect with others in the same situation.
Yes, definitely. Right now, the good news is everybody's kind of in your situation, so you have lots of people to connect with. But building a support system is really, really great. I have a group of friends who just really needed some help and support, so we started an online group, and we get on in the evenings and chat about, hey, this didn't go well for us today. This did go well. What are you trying? Sharing ideas. And that way you don't have to do it alone. It can get very isolating to try to tackle this all on your own. So finding some people whose interests lie with yours, or your kids' interests are the same, or even just people who are doing this, do it together so that you're not doing it alone. Support each other and just spend some time talking about how you're feeling and what's working, because it's going to change. And what worked today isn't going to work tomorrow, and you're going to need each other. So it's your support system. And
that leads us into your final tip, which is cut yourself some slack, because you are new at this.
Yes. Everybody needs some slack. Even the people who chose to homeschool from the very beginning need to cut themselves a lot of slack. You are finding yourself in sudden, unexpected educational realms that people have not been in before. And this is hard. This is hard for those of us who have been teaching for 20 years. It's those of us who have been parents for a long time. This is challenging. And so you need to be able to give yourself permission to have a bad day, to struggle, to get frustrated with your children, to be frustrated with yourself, to scrap it all and try again and reset another day. It's really, really important. It's a marathon. This is a long game. And so we want to have some reserves left. Take it slow, be kind to yourself, and just enjoy the small victories with your children when you see them do something amazing or catch on to a concept that you hadn't seen them do before. Stop and celebrate that. In homeschooling, one of the groups I'm in, we call that the homeschool payday. You don't get paid to be your child's teacher, but you get a payday when you see them do something amazing. So stop and celebrate that, and really take a moment to reflect that this is just a season. And it's going to be okay. Everybody's going to get through this, and we're going to do it together. And our kids will value the time we spent doing this learning journey with them.
And you'll survive.
You will survive.
Yeah. So Alicia was kind enough to give us a couple of resources that you can check out if you are schooling your children at home. One is something on simplehomeschool.net. It's called Homeschooling During Coronavirus. Try the 3-hour homeschool solution. Mm-hmm. And the other one is a Facebook support group called School from Home, Tips to Keep the Learning Going.
Yep.
So, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your expertise. I know that the families out there certainly appreciate that, because this is a challenging time.
It is. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.